Hey guys, welcome to Cult Film Interview, the podcast where we discuss the films you love, but no one else gets, and we see if they still hold up. Tonight, it's all shiny balls, amped up dwarfs, and creepy tall men, because we're talking about the 1979 classic Phantasm. So let's just start the show.
Your Hollywood system stole our sex and co-opted our violence, so there's nothing left for our kinds of movies.
I did not hit her. It's not true.
Klopex? Klopex. Klopex.
Up yours, baby.
Me and Bubba, my little brother, listen to you every night.
Where in the hell are we?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, guys, thanks for joining us this week. We're doing Phantasm, but before we get into that, I just want to say, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps us out a lot. Thank you to everyone who's been doing that for us lately. You know, we really appreciate it, and we feel very loved right now, except for tonight because we don't have any new ones to read.
A lot of Satanists out
None
there.
tonight, huh?
No, Satanists did not come out for us this week. Last week was Satanist week, apparently. So
What movie did we do?
There might have been a conference, right? Who knows?
who knows? Who knows?
Highlander brought out the Satanists.
Yeah, they all get together. Listen to the show.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
That's
kill
great.
a goat.
Kill a goat.
That's weird. They probably don't do that.
They don't do that. I know. Now I'm shoehorning.
Way to
Stereotype.
go, Cody.
Way to be about stereotypical asshole.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, so I said it's Phantasm tonight. It came out in 1979. Had a budget of $300,000. Made $12 million. Filmed in the U.S. Rated.
Nailed it.
What's it rated? Is it R? I put R down, but
It's R.
yeah,
I think it was originally going to get an X rating.
It currently has a 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was directed by Don
Coscarelli.
Coscarelli.
That's correct, Chris. It's so crazy how you have movie knowledge. If you don't know what it's about a teenage boy and his friends that face off against a mysterious grave robber known only as the Tall Man, who keeps a lethal arsenal of terrible weapons with him. Very
Terrible weapons? Is that that's what you went with?
That's what I went with.
Imagine
Alright.
guns,
like-
and there's no
Yeah.
guns.
Like
Oh, there
one
is
weapon.
guns.
If you're wondering
Haunting
if you're
weapons.
wondering who's breaking the #1 podcast rule, which is don't talk before you're introduced.
Do you even know the rule? Because
As always, I am joined by the Cult Film crew of Kyle Smith,
hello, how's it going?
Chris Willenbrecht,
Hey, what's up?
and Michael Salustio.
Hello, everyone. How are you today?
Oh, you gotta do a long one when I do a long one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
You
longer.
thought because I gotta laugh, you'd get one too.
Salustio wine. It makes you feel at home.
Trying to piggyback on your laugh,
I
bro.
know. Get out of here.
So
Get outta
this
here.
was Kyle's pick.
It certainly was.
Kyle, why'd you pick Phantasm?
I picked Phantasm because I've wanted to review this film since we started this podcast, and recently, within the last year or last 6 months, well, actually probably last month, but I don't even know when it was. J.J. Abrams' production company, Bad Robot, took on the film and did like a full restoration of it, and I was really excited to see how they did on the restoration. And I thought it'd also be an interesting film for us to dive into because there's a lot of weirdness and uncertainties with this film, and I would just curious to see how everyone took it.
Yeah, okay. Has anyone not seen this film before? Everybody seen it?
Crickets.
Okay, let me ask this question then. When was the last time you saw it? Because it's been a while for me.
Who
Chris?
are you
Chris?
asking?
Chris?
Yeah, he's not even.
I'm looking directly at Chris.
Yeah, but
Staring
The
right
people,
at him.
looking all around
because
the
the
room.
people at home can see.
No,
your eyes.
they don't have to see me. If I'm looking at somebody, that means I'm looking at you for the answer.
I'm literally right across from you, so you're always looking at me.
Oh my God. Answer the goddamn question. This episode's a fucking train wreck.
Last time I saw this was, I want to say maybe 5 years ago. The problem I have with that is I saw it once before that even, and I can never seem to remember it very well.
Interesting. A nice an answer and a jab. Well played.
When was the last time you saw it, Kyle?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Mike?
Much longer than 5 years ago.
Yeah, much longer for me,
Probably
too.
like 10 or 15 years ago. God, wait a second. I might have been a kid. I might have been 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago.
I love this movie. My dad showed me this movie. Like, believe it, I think we were at. I feel like it was around October, and we were at like a Best Buy, and he bought the VHS of this, And he's like, this is a great movie. We all are going to watch it together. And, you know, that was probably when I was like 8 or 9, maybe. That's if I feel like that's semi-correct.
I feel like I would have probably appreciated it and liked this movie more, not giving away my rating, but I feel like I would have probably appreciated it and liked this movie more if I would have saw it around that age.
Yeah, because it you know, but I mean, this is kind of a great topic to bring up because we're just coming off of the film review of Drop Dead Fred, which as a child is just kind of a loud, rambunctious film, but as an adult, there's like a bunch of weird layers and shit you never thought was there. And this film, like as a child, it was I thought it was like just crazy, a flying metal sphere with a drill built into it, just, you know, shooting around corridors. And then when you see an adult, it's like there's so much to unpack in the film. It almost gets overwhelming. So yes.
You know what? I say we unpack this film
Let's do it.
when we come back.
Jody. Hi, Reg. How's it going? Tommy's gone. It's a hell of a way to end a trio. It's hard to believe. Killed himself. Hey, I'm gonna go visit somebody. I'll catch you inside. Yeah.
All right, guys, we're back, and we're talking about Phantasm. Came out in 1979, made a buttload of cash. Buttload.
Sure did.
Okay, so this is how I'm going to kind of start off, I feel like, tonight.
All right.
Well, shoot us straight.
I have several questions as far as not so much about the movie, but about the movie, if this makes sense. The following...
Nope, that didn't at all, but let's do it.
The following, like, it definitely has a cult following.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm baffled by this.
Why?
Because... All right, I'll just get it out of the way. I'm not a fan of this movie.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
what do
just-
we even need to rate it for? Let's throw in the towel. Let's throw in the towel,
No,
guys.
Give up.
It's going to correlate to what I have to say. It's going to
Okay.
coordinate.
All right.
And I don't understand the cult following behind this film, and maybe it's because I'm missing pieces of the film as far as like deeper meaning or something like that, because it's just such a far out there, weird, wacky fucking concept that I don't find any of it terrifying.
Let's start with, you know what? Let's jump into this because I have a question for you then, Cody. And this is a question for everyone, obviously, myself included, but I want to see where your head's at. What do you think this movie's about? What did you take away?
What I got from it is it's about maybe an alien that is making slaves for either his home planet or to take over another dimension. And he's making slaves out of dead bodies that turn out to be raged dwarves.
Okay. Mike, Chris, anyone want to jump in as well?
I would jump on with I think that it is about, I mean, I guess he's an alien, or that is a portal to some sort of underworld. But he does say planet, right? I think
He does say planet.
But, you know, he doesn't
He
fucking
doesn't know.
He doesn't fucking know.
Mike doesn't know in the movie. Mike in the movie, not Mike here.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know either.
Yeah.
I imagine it was something of that nature, and then they defeat him, or they banish him to the depths of the earth, and they find out that it's all in the mind of a child. Or is it? That's like the plot of the film right there.
Yeah, that is. And I guess I just took away that from it. I also think there's like some kind of like a relationship story going on between him and his brother here.
Obviously,
that
yeah.
I feel like that's I don't know, it always kind of has like it feels like it's rooted somewhere in that story as well.
I read, so in preparation for this review, I like to read, especially on films that I personally don't feel like I quite got it. I like to read a lot of other reviews and kind of get into the mind of other people and see where they were coming from. And one of the things I read, and I thought this was really interesting, so I wanted to bring it up on the show, but I don't even, this could be completely way far fucking off, but somebody pointed out that this film, like, the high concept of it is actually a kid who is simply coping with the death of his brother. This entire film is his psyche and him attempting to cope with the death of his older brother and his parents at the pretty much around the same time frame. And he is obsessive about death, and that's what the tall man is supposed to represent is death. And that's why he is putting so much onto this funeral parlor and stuff, that there's some kind of conspiracy or weirdness afoot going on, because he's not quite old enough or prepared to deal with the fact that he no longer has a brother. And I thought that was a really interesting thing. And that after watching the movie and then reading that, I kind of could see bits and pieces of it. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
One of you guys can.
Well, don't argue.
I
Who's
think
gonna go?
you're on the right track, because here's the thing. A lot of Don Coscarelli's films have these weird, crazy, high-concept ideas. Like Bubba Hotep is about, possibly Elvis and JFK, who is a black man, fighting against an ancient mummy. Like John dies in the end. I haven't seen that film all the way through, but as I understand it, it is a semi-autobiographical horror film about the guy who wrote it, like his life or something like that. And then you have Phantasm 8 through 25 that he but with maybe an exception of Beastmaster.
Yeah.
All of his films have these really it's not just like a straightforward like horror film. There's always some kind of weird
and I have
out there idea that ties it all together or confuses the whole thing. Yeah.
I do kind of have a hard time referring to this as a horror film. I feel like it delves far more into like almost a sci-fi fantasy, but with gory elements to it, I guess. But Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. I looked up a little bit about the film, and the director had stated that it was really a story about young kids like maturing in a sense, and like also like the representation of the tall man was supposed to be like a child to an adult essentially, and like the fear that comes with that. So I kind of saw it from that perspective. I agree with what you guys are saying. That's like a really good theory to have about the film, but
yeah, there's nothing confirmed on it, but I feel like, at least for me personally, like, it's one of those movies that are, I feel like there's something going on, and maybe I haven't seen it enough to really latch into it yet.
There has to be something, if only because there is that weird scene that exists where he goes to see what essentially is some psychic, the local town psychic or something, and there's so much of it is about how his brother's going to leave and how he's going to leave him all alone. And this woman's like, no, he's not going to leave you alone. He's going to take you with you. We've foreseen this. And there's that scene stands out from the rest of the movie so oddly. Like it's almost like it is trying to give you some sort of plot, trying to explain something, but it never really gets fully there.
Right.
And it stands out from the rest of the film, where the rest of the film is just this kid trying to figure out what the fuck is going on at the cemetery.
Right.
But this one, like he goes there for seemingly like no real reason other than he just kind of feels like, well,
to what, the lady?
Yeah.
I feel I kind of got the sense that he's gone there a lot.
No, I get that because they're like, hey, welcome back,
Yeah.
But like in terms of the movie and how it's presented, like it really just stands out of nowhere. Like they don't explain that woman. They don't really explain what's going on there.
Well, after that, Lance Henderson walks in, and then she conjures up the pumpkin head.
That's true.
So, no, it's funny listening to your guys' description of this movie, because I took it more at face value than anything deeper than what I saw on screen.
What makes me not take it at, or what makes me take it at a deeper value, I think, is the very end of the film, like when you do find out that this might have been all a dream, which pissed me off, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, that's such a fucking cheap move, like to wake up out of something and be like, nothing ever happened. But then, of course, they leave it open to interpretation with the final, scene of him getting pulled through the glass mirror and the tall man's
I think
there.
he shot like multiple endings for this film, like multiple, and actually used one in a different film, a different Phantasm film.
That I'm not aware of.
Pretty sure I read that, but
yeah,
Wikipedia.
Yeah. I think the sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just for me. Like I said, I took this film at face value, and I didn't read too much. Like there's certain things that hit me that was like, that's fucking weird. Like the fact that the tall man's dressing up like a lady and banging boys and killing them.
Yeah,
was kind of weird.
It was. It felt kind of disjointed. Like I didn't pick that up right away.
I don't get the symbolism behind that. I was kind of confused. Like,
well,
so the tall man waits till these guys finish.
The way
and then he kills them.
The way I took those scenes, and it's the first time I've taken it this way since seeing it before, is that like I feel like the flash of her face, and then it's the tall man's face and her and stuff. I like kind of took it as like he was more or less kind of pulling the strings of that situation, but like he wasn't directly there, or he was hiding himself or something. I don't. Again, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I want to point out that I read, and actually I watched the Blu-ray had an interview with him from '79 when it came out. And the thing that I think is interesting about this film is when he wrote this film, he locked himself away in a cabin for like 2 months, nobody else around, and he says that like as the time went on and as I became more disconnected, like a lot of the weird imagery in the film started flooding into his mind when he was like secluded and isolated in this cabin. So I feel like that's where a lot of the kind of almost surreal dreamlike shit is coming from. It's probably coming from his own psyche, like playing tricks on him, and then him basically putting it into a script.
And again, maybe just I'm a bad reviewer, but I didn't pick up on the dreamlike shit either until the end when you get the wake up ending.
I'll disagree with that. I think
That's
the whole
just me.
movie feels dreamlike.
I just thought it was shot well. I didn't think it felt dreamlike.
I think the whole movie definitely has like a surrealistic
whether
dream
it's like
vibe.
fog in the background and light, the way they lit the thing, and like the shots are very grand. And
I feel like the way the flashbacks happened felt almost surreal or kind of unusual. Like they had an odd mood,
right? Or the dreams, like when he's in that infamous scene where he's in the bed, but it's the coffin, and the tall man is like like lurking above him, and the camera's pulling back. Like that's some crazy fucking imagery.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you love that part when you were awake, or?
Oh no, I did fall asleep during this film. I'll be honest, and right up front. But I went back and watched it because I really did want to pay close attention, because this movie is hailed as like a very important film to a lot of people, and I just really wanted to fucking figure out why that was. You know,
I'm still trying to figure that out. When this movie originally came out, it came out to bad reviews.
Yeah.
It came out to bad
Isn't
reviews.
that like
and
the
then
essential cult
yeah,
film?
Yeah, and then people
bad
changed,
reviews, but then like
people changed their mind. The
great
remaster.
box office.
Yeah, the box office is crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, like 12 million it made. That's just
keep in mind the
gross.
remastering just happened only a month ago. So I mean, there's been a cult following for this film
for a
and
very
all
long
of
time.
its sequels for a very long time. I mean, even people to the point like there's a lot of diehard Phantasm fans that are like, with every subsequent sequel, they get more and more pissed because like the story has never come to a finality. And just recently, the 5th film came out, and it is the final film that I think Angus Scrimm is in general in his entire film career. But they, if I'm not mistaken, they like button up the story and like they bring it to a complete close, because like Reggie's in all of them. Like he's just fighting the tall man through generations and shit. So
Yeah.
So I mean, it's got that rabid fan base that keeps it going.
Is this kind of the movie that started? And I'm not sure. Is this kind of the movie that started like the kid adventure, like horror theme? Because I was watching this and I was like, I feel like this influenced like Lost Boys like a lot. Like
kid adventure? You mean like the kid finds himself in a horror film?
It's
like Silver Bullet?
No,
and
this
shit?
is definitely like not. I don't want to say like Goonies.
No,
but
I
it's
know
got-
which movie this was influenced by, and it's Something Wicked This Way Comes. He wanted to make a film like that, and
that came out after.
No,
I don't believe
I don't
so,
believe
dude.
so.
I don't know.
GTS.
Should we Google that shit? But I'm almost certain that film, he wanted to make a film like that, what he wanted to do is he wanted to license the rights to make that film. That's what it is. He wanted to license the rights to make Something Wicked This Way Comes. It already got snagged up by Disney, and then he made this film which was kind of inspired by what that film was supposed to be.
Yeah, the film came out in '83.
Because I see it like I don't know. I just see the relationship between the brothers in this movie just very similar to the one in Lost Boys.
Well, I know there's a lot of childlike themes in it, like watching your brother having sex.
Yeah.
Like, who wasn't part of that, guys, right? Am I right? Like,
you're
creeping
wrong.
in, looking for your brother, seeing him have sex.
never
No?
did that.
No, am I wrong?
Seeing him have sex with a tall
Yeah,
man.
you were looking at your younger brother.
Wrong?
That's even weirder, dude.
Oh man. It's like, Mike, you should
No,
know.
that is
you
a
know
weird
this is
fucking
by
scene,
now.
though, right? I don't understand. Like, I didn't understand that again.
I get it.
Like
It was
at
to
all.
see boobs. I mean,
I don't know if it was though.
I was
Quite
like-
honestly, like I don't take that because there's this weird thing with Mike.
Not me, but
Not
yeah.
you, but in the movie, there's a weird thing with Mike in the movie where he is just so obsessed about believing his brother is going to leave him in some way. That's why he's just following him
Well, I think
I
everywhere.
think that's because his parents died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with that, too.
I think
Yeah.
it's because his parents died, but I also think this kind of harkens back to the fact that like this kid is kind of living in a fantasy world where in the real world his brother is dead, but in this fantasy world he's always trying to stay close because he doesn't want to let that go.
I worry.
Real
I
close.
did not pick up. Man,
well, how as I'm describing it, can you see it
No.
now?
no, because he talks about leaving his brother because he doesn't want the responsibility in the film. I just don't see that he's dead throughout the whole film. That Jody's dead throughout the whole film. I don't see that.
I don't
Well, yeah,
want to
it's the-
see
I mean,
that.
that's the twist in the reveal, right?
I kind of
If
don't
you
want it
saw
to be.
Like, if you...
But
yeah.
what's the bigger twist? The fact that the tall man actually exists and pulls him, like, he gets pulled into the mirror at the end. That is the final statement and stamp on the film.
Yes.
So was he really dreaming it all? Probably not.
I would imagine he wasn't. I mean, but then...
Why would Reggie be so confused about?
It's such a weird fucking thing, because what I don't understand is, like what that means for the whole film is, like... What's the mythos of it, then? Like, are we...
What is it?
Yeah, what is it really?
There really was an alien.
Like, let's take a film like The Babadook, right? Like, okay, that this demon is a representation of, postpartum syndrome or whatever,
Right.
or like, depression in a family setting, and they turned it into like a poltergeist thing, and then, but there are clear kind of indications where you can really point and say that creature is her dark, like, mental disorder, like in
Drop Dead Fred.
yeah, right, or Drop Dead Fred, extracting its revenge on this family, right?
Yeah.
There's not really an indication that this tall man is any kind of, like, it's not
Figment
his
of his
guilt,
imagination, yeah.
It's not his like, what is it like? Unless the only other understanding is that
parent.
it's a real fucking thing,
Yeah.
and that this kid is caught in some sort of purgatory.
Ooh, I like that idea.
That maybe he's fucking dead. I don't know.
I don't know if that's.
Well, it doesn't make any sense, right? Because you said Reggie comes back in the sequels.
Reggie's in all of them, and Mike comes back in the
In
second
two.
one, and
Yeah.
I think he comes
Different
back
actor
in
in
the
two.
third or fourth one.
Do they make? What do they explain? Like,
Yeah.
what is the?
Why he's
I-
such a disrespectful little bastard riding his motorcycle through the graveyard? That's what I want to
That
know.
is true. You know what? He deserved
Right?
that.
That's fucked
He
up.
deserved that.
Doing wheelies and shit.
Yeah.
I don't remember really much about the second one. I feel like I saw that probably about 20 years ago or 15 years ago, and
That was a
it
long
didn't
time
leave
to
an
review.
impression.
I
on
want to
me.
say I saw 2 before I saw 1, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Where do you guys think that Tall Man fits against like other horror icons? Excuse me.
He's pretty recognizable.
He's pretty
I like-
recognizable.
yeah, I think he is, and I think
He's
I mean
in the
he-
top 5. Let me ask you that question. Top 5.
I mean,
Could be close. I
He
think
would be close
He's,
for me.
he's very similar in the sense that, like, a Freddy Krueger. I mean, he's not obviously as well known, but only Angus Scrim can play that
Yeah,
character.
right?
Agreed.
You can't pick anybody else. He's scarier than most of them.
he's
He's scarier
You
than a
think?
Jason. He's scarier than a
I
Myers.
think I would agree with that. I would agree with that for sure.
He's a real fucking. He's got a face. He's got a thing going
I
on there.
didn't
You can
find
see
him.
it. You know.
See, I didn't find him that terrifying. I just
thought he was great.
Yeah.
like. I think he's a cool. Like, it's a cool concept and a cool character. But like I said, maybe I wish I would have saw this when I was like 8 years old because it'd be more terrifying to me. But as an adult, I'm just like,
Is he too?
man's just got a job.
Is
I
he
thought,
too
like,
much of like a man looking? He just looks like a normal dude.
No,
like,
I just don't.
Yeah, but I like
I
the
don't know.
like
I
the
don't find him scary
concept.
looking.
What I think is scary is kind of the concept of the character too, because there's even this scene where Michael is in the antique shop and he finds a photo from like the 1800s or 1700s, and it's the same fucking tall man working at the fucking funeral parlor, and it's like this guy is. You have to just assume he's like several hundred years old, and he's been doing this shit for years. So it's kind of that like that ominous, always present evil.
Oh, speaking of ominous and evil, like how about that first time when he's like standing on the street and he looks across and Tall Man just stops and just slowly turns
and
over.
then you learn his real weakness, which was ice cream the whole time.
He
loves
you
the
saw
smell.
his face.
Smells.
He was just like, if they had thrown some Neapolitan at him, they probably,
Neapolitan.
This whole thing never would have happened.
He looks more like a
take him out
rocky
a lot
road.
earlier.
Come on, he's more of a rocky road.
They do reveal that he's been alive for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and I think that adds
something
to the creepy factor.
The original ending, they cut it out, is when after he snatches Mike and disappears, he actually comes back and says, "There can only be one."
Oh, he's the Highlander. he's one of the immortals.
No, I'm so confused by it. And the whole dwarf thing is slaves, like.
Well, they explain.
They explain that.
They explain that. They explain that, and they explain why they shrink down.
Yeah, the gravity.
The gravity of the planet. How the kid knows that shit just
I
by
know,
being
right?
there for 15 seconds.
He just
I don't
comes
know.
out with all the knowledge.
He's like, so here's the deal. Gravity on this planet is way, way, way more harder on the body. It crushes you down because if you look at the math, he's like, got a fucking chalkboard. E equals 17 times the magnified by a weak force on the body.
I think the dwarves were kind of a weak point for the movie.
A huge weak point.
I'll agree with
man.
that
It
as well.
kills, I feel like it kills the story quite a bit and the mystique of the tall man.
Right.
Like the tall man would be scarier to
I like
me.
the concept of him grave robbing and stealing bodies.
I like that too. But that would have made him scarier if he didn't turn them into fucking Star Wars characters.
And I feel like a lot of that has got to come from because there's something that I didn't mention, that this movie is like one of the concepts in this movie is actually a nightmare that the director had of the sphere itself. Like that was a nightmare of him getting chased down marble hallways, getting chased by this chrome sphere with a drill on it or some shit.
I never have dreams like that. And never.
Really? Oh, I feel
do.
so bad for you. I have insanely weird, very vivid, terrifying dreams.
Oh, you feel sorry for us? I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
No way. There's such great concepts and ideas that you get from that.
I don't want to wake up sweating.
Yeah, me either. I stress my whole day out.
I've done that. Yep. No. I
will
usually
say-
write them down if I remember to, because they're terrifying as fuck.
I will say what I like about the tall man as a villain. Like he's kind of like, how do I put this? He has like a real unpredictability where you don't really know the limits of his powers. Like for instance, like Jason, he's like this unstoppable kind of tank that like you can throw everything at him, but he keeps walking and he never really runs.
Yeah.
But this guy, it's almost like he could do anything. Like, and he attacks, like when he comes at and tries to kill people, he does it in such a weird way. That scene where the kid is walking and it's like a mirror. He's mirroring all of his emotions.
Yes.
It's real creepy. And I'm like, shit, what's gonna go on here?
Yeah.
And then he runs and he chases him.
Well,
it's like, okay, so he's not a mirror. But he did that. What, to just fuck with his
No,
head?
no. That is. I'm glad you brought that up because that is the only scene in this movie that made me go, well, maybe, like the tall man is a projection that Mike is putting out there into the world, and that's like almost him in a way. Like this is his drop dead Fred. This is his Fred. It's just a really even more fucked up version. Like his imaginary friend is just killing
big ass
people.
heel boots.
I mean, that's I don't think that's too far off. I think with a movie like this, I think any opinion you have is going to be kind of correct because it's such a high concept that isn't drilled down perfectly, so it just leaves you like we're doing right now. We're sitting in this room going back and forth about what we think this or that or might have meant or something.
Is the high concept kind of brought down? Like I guess for me too, because I thought it was just so fucking stupid. The dwarves. Like, is the high concept kind of brought down by that plot in the story?
So can I say something about this film? And I saw this. There's a campiness to this film. That exists. And I think it exists.
Got 70s
in the dwarf.
charm.
It does. And I laughed my ass off when that kid went running when his brother was trying to have sex with that girl.
Oh, and he goes,
that's right.
What the hell?
It goes. It's
He's got
it's
panties in his
framed
mouth.
such a weird way.
Yeah, he's got an old man's panties in his
Yeah.
mouth.
Oh, those are 70s
For a
panties.
long time,
No,
too.
those are tall man's panties, my
Yeah.
friend.
I was thinking about how simple the suspense is in this movie too. So, like for example, when the kid first goes in the funeral home, sneaks in, and he's hiding inside that coffin, and he puts the lighter propped up so he can still see out the crack, and the guy. It's just simply a scene of a guy coming towards him.
Mm-hmm.
It's building, and then fucking tall man walks in, dude just leaves, But for something so simple, I felt like that was really effective. Like they were good at doing things like that.
I thought the director did a good job of like building suspense, but then like kind of breaking that suspense once the kind of jump happened with like some kind of comedy bit, like you just pointed out, him running past his brother, like screaming with his arms flailing. That's like a really there were like some random scenes that could be considered as humorous or comedic to help break tension that was happening. in the film.
Definitely when he opened the door and tall man was standing there with like a karate chop hand, and then just waited like 7 seconds to actually grab him.
Yeah.
But what about the fucking long guitar duet?
Yeah, out of nowhere.
It's pretty fucking funny.
You think they were just trying to jam in some 70s tunes?
All right.
Yeah,
And like it just ends like it's a fucking Sesame Street. Like,
I was trying to think of what artist that music reminded me of, but it's like total 70s. Fucking,
Yeah.
It's like music you'd hear in the movie Billy Jack or some shit.
I don't know. I guess you know what? Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk more about the technical stuff, the stuff that I personally really enjoyed.
all right.
Fucking foot, man.
Oh, damn, look, I know you're not gonna believe this, but these things were here, right in the garage, and they were gonna get me.
Oh, give me a break, would you?
They were jumping on the car and making these weird sounds.
Sure wasn't that retarded kid Timmy up the street?
Oh, it was the same thing that chased me last night. But what are we gonna do?
You're crazy, man.
All right, guys, we're back talking about Phantasm, and I want to talk about my favorite part of the film, which was the technical aspect of it, especially with this remastered version of the film, which is J.J. Abrams. They went to town on this film, man. They made it look fantastic, but not like it was worked.
Yeah, they did it. They definitely did it. It was like it was a remaster done by a filmmaker. And it looked like it. Like it wasn't like a company just picked up a movie like let's do a remaster of it, and they shoot it off to some remastering house that just kind of like is just knocking shit out left and right. Like they spent time. And the thing that I know we all talked about earlier, and I'll bring up, is the thing I appreciated the most about it was that he kept the grain of the film in it, like so it didn't look overly sharp or waxy in any way. It just felt like a very smooth kind of a picture.
Right. It looked like real people with like texture, like it wasn't it didn't have like a fucking Instagram filter over it.
There was even a scene, I feel like the scene that I appreciated the most from the master is when Mike's brother Jody,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, Jody is walking through the funeral home the day of their friend's funeral, and it's right before the tall man like grabs him and he goes, "The funeral is about to begin." There's a scene where he turns because he hears a sound, and it's kind of a medium shot of his face, and like just the way his skin texture on his face looked and how it was reflecting light organically, it just looked really fucking good.
I would like to talk about that a little bit too, because so what was the budget on this film? 300,000. Okay, so relatively low budget. I mean, for the most part, pretty low. He does some pretty interesting things with just some lighting and some camera work and like getting the right location. Like that mausoleum.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
the idea of just like bathing it in white and light.
Yeah.
Like, man, that had a nice effect.
It really did.
It really does, and it really looked like everything looks portrait-esque, I guess.
Yes.
Like a painting almost.
Yep.
Like a lot of the scenes in this film did, especially that one scene you were talking about with him over the bed. Like it has a weird like crucifix
Yep.
looking like it just looks like if you took that snapshot and you put it in an art house, people would be like, great piece of art.
There's
That's
even
amazing. Like,
there's even a scene that I like just as much as that one that also involves Michael. It's when he falls through the forks.
Okay.
And it's a shot. It's kind of a quick shot, but it's like his arms are kind of outstretched. He's almost like in the shape of a crucifix, and he's like falling down, and the wind is rushing up at him. Like the way that the red background contrasts to him, and he's lit really subtly, but it's natural. It doesn't feel washed out. Anyway, like it just looked like something out of a graphic novel or something out of a comic book. It looked so fucking good.
It's the thing about this film, and to go back to our first original question, like what makes this a cult film? I think that has a lot to do with it.
I think so too.
It's not just your typical cheesy like horror film, bad camera, whatever. But hey, we love it because it's got some fucking interesting story concepts. Like this film is shot in a very unique way.
I think this is where like the Jodorowsky reference comes from, is because Holy Mountain is picturesque. Like a lot of those like images are a piece of art you could hang on the wall.
Yeah.
That's how Phantasm is.
I mean, even the most subtlest scenes too, I thought were shot with like really intelligent perspective. Would be like the scene where Jody's just riding his bike in the neighborhood and Mike's in the background chasing after him, like jumping over fences, like chasing after his brother, because he's like, again, going back to him thinking his brother's leaving him in some way or whatever. And it's just shot in such a way where like Jody has this very like relaxed, normal kind of look on his face, and his brother is rushing behind him, and it's framed so much like a portrait or an image. And even the I'm jumping all over the place, but I really fucking loved the orb vision.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That red and black.
That weird, like not heat vision, but something else.
Yeah, I thought it was such a like
Jarring?
dichotomy
Yeah.
to the rest of the way that the mausoleum was shot, that it was almost like it's like it shocked you, like, oh, what the hell is this I'm seeing?
I will say it has a lot to do with the music, though, as well. Like shit like that, because that wouldn't have really worked for me, but it was the music and sound cue that happened when that kicked on that made me go, fuck, I'm out of the normal
reality. It cuts
reality.
to the sound where it's like,
yeah, exactly,
like shooting around, yeah.
And that's just kind of segueing into it. I will praise it for its soundtrack and like score. I mean, it was basically just sounded like a band was just like jamming in some parts of it, and I'm like, this totally works. And those keys,
I love the
theme.
Like,
I was like, is this The Exorcist? Because it kind of has that tubular bells sound,
yes.
but it's it's not. It's its own original piece.
Now, don't get me wrong. There's some fucking cheese ball scenes in this bad special effects. Like that fucking fly.
Oh yeah,
he might as well have been attacked by a Muppet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, that was like
It looked plastic. Like there was some
fucking
like somebody was just behind it, like moving it back and forth.
It was smiling like the Joker.
Yeah,
it had no sense.
That was the weirdest looking thing. I don't know. I don't even know.
That whole scene was bizarre, but it was well acted, I will say.
Yeah, I even thought too. Like when I was watching it, I was like, when the brother took it, and it was like the brother's turn to act like there was something flying in the jacket. I was like, oh, it's starting to feel cheap. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I kind of believe it. And then Reggie comes in, and he's just like looking at the sink, trying to have like a normal conversation. He's like, hey, what's going on here? And that fucking fly shoots right out at him. Like that was a good jump, even though it was a goofy looking fly.
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, again, like the comedy aspect. I found that scene a little more comical than a lot of the other parts.
It definitely had like a slapsticky element to it. So.
I think he did a beautiful job of just casting shadows and then framing the shadows correctly too, and just framing in general. His framing, like there's always something. I feel like they're opening in the middle of the shot or off to the side. Like there's this weird framing that's going on that's always done at like different angles and beautifully done. Always lit.
Yeah.
Perfectly.
Yeah. Lighting was huge.
And as much as we kind of joked about. We've joked about the scene where like the chick turns into the tall man in back. That close shot that happens though when you see the chick's face is like really disturbing. I find it disturbing anyways. Like it's just a weird face and it's lit really sharp in detail, and you kind of see imperfections in her skin and stuff. I just thought that was like a really surrealistic way of shooting it too.
Best lighting in the film though is when Reggie's ice cream truck is flipped and they pull up on it when they're in the Beetle.
Yeah,
dude, that lighting is so sick from behind it, and then like
I'll also say
the
the
headlights,
the inside the funeral home. The lighting that was done in there with all the angles, like everything was so geometric and like symmetrical and just like perfectly lined up, in the lighting, the way it would come through the doorway would just slice through the frame. Like
there's that scene where he walks into that spot where there's like the 4 hallways converging, and it, like all the light pouring through like make like an X on the floor where he like stands at. And I think that's also probably what sells the sphere, because you're looking at this very square geometrical room, and then this shiny chrome ball comes flying through the air, and it's like reflecting everything around it, and it's shot really well too with the reflections.
Yeah.
Like
by the way, I read that the way they did the spheres is they got like a professional baseball player who would chuck these things across the room, and they would film it, but then they just expose the film in reverse, so that when it would fly, it was actually the reverse shot of that.
Really?
Yeah,
so much sense.
And if you look at it, it always kind of has that angle to it as well. Like, think about somebody throwing it; it starts high and goes low.
Right?
As it travels
low and goes high.
But when you see it, it's always coming towards the camera, and it's always going high.
Oh, that's so smart.
That's
such a smart idea.
Yeah. So
because nothing ever looks right going in reverse. You ever notice that?
Mm-hmm.
You ever see a scene in a movie and you're just like, that was shot in reverse?
Yeah.
Because it never looks quite right.
Right. I didn't think about it until
and I
read
like
it.
that because it makes that ball fly in an irregular pattern that you would not see something that was controlled
really
by gravity.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I will tell you what sold the sphere for me. It was about 12 gallons of blood.
So
that's
awesome.
what
I
sold it for me.
loved that.
That is the coolest thing in this movie to me.
I feel like
scene.
that
That's
has
the
a
coolest thing.
lot to do with its kind of cult following and this film's cult status. I mean, that sphere. What's funny is there was a game that came out for the PC in like '96 called Blood 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a first-person shooter, but you were a demon, and you like use a lot of different weapons.
I played it.
One of your weapons was the sphere. Like you walked around, and your hand over it, and it floated above you, and you like swiped, and it shot off and like landed in some enemy's head and like drilled blood out of it.
I completely remember playing that game. Yeah,
I'm like, that's so fucking
blood.
cool. This thing made it into a fucking video game.
Well, let's be honest. Like that sphere is almost as iconic as Angus Skin is.
Yeah.
Like I would say that because and to think about it.
In terms of like horror movie weapons, I'm sorry, that's fucking badass.
It's really badass. It's almost as it's like iconic in the ways like the Hellraiser box or like Freddy's glove, but like the crazy thing about it is that it only they really only show it one time in this film.
That murder, yeah,
it's like 3 times.
They show it like 3 times, but that murder
gets shot by
Jody.
Jody shoots it this
and then does it actually ever kill anyone else other than that?
Not that I can
weird.
remember.
Nope.
Yeah,
just kills that one guy.
It doesn't really have like it's not prominent, but I know it becomes way more prominent.
That's
in
another
the,
thing
in
that
the
I was.
sequels.
That was another thing I was kind of like not impressed with this one is like I don't feel like I feel like that's the memorable death. That and Michael getting snatched at the end, right? That was pretty much it. And I was kind of disappointed with that.
That's the thing with this film. I mean, that's kind of also why I have a hard time saying it's a horror film.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more sci-fi fantasy because you really only have like one kill.
Well, the guy in the beginning, Tommy in the beginning, Tommy,
he gets stabbed with a knife, and it's shot real kind of harsh, and it's not that gruesome or anything. Like the sphere kill is really, you're right, that is the kill in the movie that you look forward to seeing.
Yeah, maybe it was wise to not overuse it because people wanted more for the sequels.
it could have been that. It could have definitely been a victim of budget,
I would say.
And I think to your point, Chris. Yeah, I think it left people wanting more. Which, as the films go on, the spheres become bigger and more prominent up until I think it's the 4th film, which is, I believe, Oblivion, and I feel like that movie deals more with the spheres than anything. I remember the trailers for that when I was a kid coming out. Like, there's like a scene of like 1,000 spheres shooting down a hallway and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it just becomes this really prominent thing.
Yeah, just like Leprechaun becomes more ridiculous.
I also wanted to praise the music. I don't feel like I got to talk about that. Thanks.
Well, you're the host. You can pop in whenever you want.
No, and it's good when you're watching the movie with someone and that person is sleeping next to you, and every time the theme music comes on, they wake up.
Yeah.
You got a killer theme song there.
I like the theme song, dude.
No, it's not bad.
I thought it was a nice blend of, like you said, Exorcist, Halloween.
I think the
all that.
technical stuff on this film is perfect almost.
Yeah.
Like
I would agree with that.
It's
It just has a really difficult to swallow story and like plot. But I feel like with multiple viewings, like you can start to kind of dig into it and kind of understand it maybe a little bit more.
So you're saying it's kind of like an onion?
Yeah, it's got layers, bro.
Oh,
like an ogre?
You make me so proud.
All right, guys, let's rate this Mammer Jammer. What are we going to rate it?
We're going to rate it spheres.
Yeah.
We're going to rate it spheres. Let's start off with Chris Willenbrecht.
Again?
Never fucking mind. No, fuck you. Let's start off with Mike.
Okay. Yeah. Phantasm. Hadn't seen it in a while. I had to watch it twice. When I was a kid and I watched this film, I remember coming out of it like not quite getting anything. Watching it a second time, I felt the same way. Watching it the third time, I started picking up on the things that we've been talking about, trying to put those things together. That's why certain films you do need that maybe not even second but third viewing. That being said, the visuals in this film are pretty spectacular, and the 4K restoration really brings them to prominence. I would give this film a 4. It's a pretty solid film, and I understand its legacy. I am with some of you on here. It's one of those horror films that not a lot of people talk about. Like everyone's a Freddy fan, everyone's a Jason fan. Like you talk about horror fans, they always talk about those. I feel like there's a segment of the horror fan group that really specifically likes this film. I feel like it's an outlier. It's not one of those films like we were talking about the top 5 great villains.
Yep.
I would say that Phantasm, it's not, but to those who love it, you're goddamn right, he's one of the top 4 or one of the top 5. And I see that now. I might even be like one of these people that have been converted to this idea that Phantasm is far unrecognized as it should be. It should be more prominent. So yes, 4
orbs,
orby balls, silver balls,
orbs,
silver balls.
I think they're referred to as orbs.
Orbs
in the canon of
spheres.
I think they're orbs. I don't know.
Okay,
I'll go next. I got to give this one a 2.5 for myself. I just cannot swallow the story of this movie. I will. The 2.5 is literally for the way it's shot, the lighting, the sound. The technical aspect of the film, because I see the art there and it's beautiful. The rest of it, I just have a hard time swallowing. It's a little, for me, the pacing's slow. It's the movie drags on. I'm not creeped out. I'm one of those people who's on the opposite end, and I'm not creeped out by the tall man. I just don't find it to be a terrifying character for me. Maybe that's because I saw it when I was older rather than younger. I just, I think he does a great portrayal of it, and I get what they're trying to project with that character, but for me, it just doesn't do it. And I just don't, I had a hard time connecting, I feel like, with the characters. I just couldn't get into them. It's not my cup of tea. It's not going to be for everyone. I do think you're right. There is a group of hardcore fans for this film, which I understand why, and I think they would put him in the top 5. I personally wouldn't. And yeah, 2.5 for me. Check it out. I think it's worth the watch, especially if you want to pick up how to score a film and you want to pick up how to shoot a film and make a elegant horror film. I don't. Again, I'm with you. I don't know if it's actually a horror film or not. But I will say, if you want to make an elegant horror film, this will give you so many goddamn ideas. And I could see how this film is influential, but so I'm going middle of the road on this one, 2.5. Chris?
Yeah, I definitely think people should check this out for all those reasons, for artistic reasons. The film certainly has that vibe. As we said, every shot is picturesque and beautifully lit. And the camera movements are very slow and moody, but some of that I think does hurt the film. Not necessarily the imagery, but the pace of the film is kind of slow. There's a lot of scenes of dead quietness and getting from A to B, which is usually just from the mortuary to a house. There's not a whole lot of in between. So the movie feels slow, but overall, I get it. I understand why this film is so special. I mean, the music is fantastic. It's kind of a little set aside from a horror film. It has to have a sci-fi kind of vibe to it, but the setting is more horror-like because it's a mortuary. So they blend a lot of cool things. Angus Scrimm as the tall man is an awesome looking character. He is creepy. He's lurking. He's tall. He can run in heels.
Yeah, right.
And he is great. He is the tall man. Can't really see anybody else ever really pulling that off.
That's so funny. Quite
the same way. So yeah, I'm gonna have to sit at a 3 on this one. I don't love this film. I have a hard time remembering it after I watch it, which isn't a good thing. But then, getting into discussions where it is a deeper, story than what maybe I thought it was, is also fascinating. So it is worth a watch. I'm going to go with 3 spheres.
Kyle?
Yeah, Phantasm. The thing about this movie is it changes each time that I've seen it, how I feel about it. Saw it as a kid, thought it was just kind of a crazy, weird concept. I was more so enthralled by the concept of this chrome sphere that's, flying around, drilling people's heads, even though it only happens once. As a kid, I feel like it happened a million times if it only happened once. Seeing it now as an adult, I recognize the fact that I might not have gotten it all, or to this day still don't get it all. But I think it's a great fucking movie. I think it definitely deserves more time to invest into it, because I agree with Cody and Chris. There's definitely a bit of a pacing issue in it, especially when it's dealing with a lot of scenes that I feel like are put in place just to showcase Mike's fear of abandonment. But I feel like that concept was driven home a little too hard. Music and sound effects are on point, and the way it's shot, like everybody else has said, is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to give this movie a 4 spheres. I recommend seeing it. I would just say go into it knowing that there is some pacing issues, but I think I have to believe that there's kind of a grander concept that's going on in this film than I understand at this particular moment in my life. So I think for that reason alone, it's a pretty cool film that keeps me guessing and trying to figure it out. So 4 spheres.
4 from Kyle. That is our show for this week. Make sure you check out all our past episodes at cultfilmandreview.com, and make sure you follow us on social media at
there it is.
_review on Instagram and Twitter, and you can also follow us on Facebook. You can follow Kyle.
You can follow me on Instagram at cultfilm_Kyle.
You can follow Chris at
cultfilm_Chris on Instagram.
And you can follow Mike
at Mike Salustio on Twitter.
And you can follow me at VHS Collect on Instagram. That's our show for this week. Just remember, if you're going to join a cult, make sure they watch good movies.